Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Anne-Marie Kanata McEwen here on this Sunday, October the 14th, 2018, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, your weekend dose of happy. We hope you've had a wonderful weekend, and we're going to tell you a bit about ours, too. Unfortunately, this week we tried to do the live podcast for this show, and once again, my little Bitdefender antivirus is giving me a hard time, so we're having to record this offline, but you'll be able to hear this as a regular podcast. That's the way you're listening to it right now, I'm sure, when you're tuning in, except for one listener who tuned right into the Zoom platform, and I'm not sure if he's going to participate or not, but he'll be our sole single what's the word for that? Our token. That's what it is. He'll be our token live listener. How about that? So, Anne-Marie, how you doing? We haven't talked in a week. Welcome to the show, and how's it going?
Thank you, Walt. I'm doing great. Things are good. I tried to finish up with my concert last week, and by the time I did, there was just a few minutes left, and I said, well, you guys got it under control, and I just listened in and said, hey, that's pretty good. You guys are doing great. So
well,
Mike was need me.
Mike was convinced that you were just blowing us off. You know that, don't you?
I know. He told me that. I was like, well, I really appreciate you covering for me. Actually, I said to him, and I hope you liked it, because I'm going to be taking a Reiki class to learn Reiki 1 the next 2 Sundays.
Oh, my.
So it might be finished by 8 o'clock, but right now it's scheduled to be finished at 9 o'clock. So
okay.
We'll have to see if he'll do it again for me.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. Hey, that sounds like a good thing. You're always adding stuff into your life, but that's a really good one, because I know that Mike already has that credential, so to speak. So you're going to be on par with him. You're going to catch up to him on that one.
Well, at least I'm going to learn a little bit. It'll still be like I'm in kindergarten and he's in high school, but at least I'll have a little bit of knowledge, under my belt, and getting attunement and that kind of thing, which I'm looking forward to. So, he's really in tune with the energy levels, and I'm just trying to just tap into it a little bit. But I'm excited about that. This is the first time we'll be teaching Reiki at the Buttonwood Tree.
Very good. Yeah, that's excellent. Well, it's been quite the weekend, I have to say, because when did I come up with this? I think it was Wednesday or Thursday night. I was giving thought to one of my big goals. One of my big goals, I think I've told you, is to dramatically increase our listenership. Now, our listenership has been growing really nicely. In fact, it's doubled in just the last 3 months. So I can't complain about the growth at all. But I'm a little greedy. And, right now, for every episode we put out, we get roughly around 200 people listening to it, which is wonderful. And it's just so exciting how much everything has grown. But I want to be at like 10,000, which is, 50 times more than what we already have right now, even with the great growth that we've had. And so I not only keep putting it out there and getting into the good feeling place, and in the words of Neville Goddard, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I've been doing quite a bit of that lately. But I also understand, and I'm sure you understand too, that when we are inspired to take action, we need to take the action as well. And so I was kind of putting out the question to the universe. I think I first started putting the question out about a week and a half ago. What do I need to do? What's my next step? What do I got to do? And I got really annoyed because the answer came back, nothing. Don't do anything. I said, well, wait a minute. I want to do something. That was really pissing me off. But anyway, I let it go. And a few days later, I was in the thought process again. I really wish I knew what I could do. And I got an idea that just kind of came to me. And the idea was bring comedians onto the show. I thought, well, that's an interesting idea. I've actually had that one before long in the past, but I've kind of forgotten about it. And I realized why I liked it. The reason I like it is not that I want to turn it into the comedy hour, but I like the idea of bringing people on who have a good sense of humor to help do the discussing, because people like listening to funny people, to just people who are, entertaining, who are funny. And I figure if we can find the right people, and there are lots of comedians out there. I mean, people don't necessarily realize that when they, watch television or whatever. But there are lots of comedians who are just looking for a break, trying to find their way through, hoping to, I guess, hope they, when they get a TV series maybe or something like that. There are literally hundreds of people out there trying to pursue a career as comedians. And so I figured...
I have to agree with that, yeah. We have a lot of comedians at the Buttonwood Tree, and
sure.
I don't know if they would do a show like this or even if they know about the law of attraction, but I know a lot of comedians. In fact, I was talking to a Wesleyan student tonight, one of our staff members, who says there's a lot of Wesleyan students who are comedians. So
really?
I
Wow.
think if we just put it out there that we want more comedians or just really funny people to come and call into the show or be your host or whatever, then we can attract that.
Well, funny you should mention that because that's actually what I started to do this weekend. I decided I was going to, first of all, I just did a little feeling stuff, going out to the social media, seeing what I could find, doing some searches on Google and stuff like that. And I found some through LinkedIn. That was good. But it occurred to me, Facebook is a good way to find people if you're willing to do paid advertising. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of money searching for somebody because it's not like we're making any money on it now. But I was willing to spend some money and see if I could target people who were self-identified as comedians and see if any of them might express some interest in, talking to me, finding out more about it, see if it might be something they'd like to do. And it turns out the answer is yes. Because I put the ad out yesterday, and during that time, I don't have the current count because Louise and I actually were away for today. We were up in Vermont, up at Mount Snow visiting with friends, and we had a great time there, by the way. We went up, we took the chairlift up to the top of the mountain, and all the views were just spectacular, and it was just great. We had chocolate.
Nice.
Oh, it was just a wonderful day. Made me
How
think.
are the colors up there? You'll have to tell me later.
Well, no, I can tell you. The colors were good. They're actually past peak right now, which is hard to believe for us here in Connecticut because our trees are just starting to turn. But they're actually past peak, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of the trees are devoid of leaves. A lot of leaves on the ground. It was still very pretty. It just, last weekend was the peak weekend, but that was okay because it doesn't matter. The views were just absolutely plainly spectacular. I mean, Louise was looking at me at the look on my face, and she was grinning ear to ear because I was grinning ear to ear because I was just enjoying being up there so much. So anyway, that's what we were doing today. But because of that, I couldn't receive all the messages that I'd been receiving from people who were expressing interest in being perhaps on the show, maybe co-hosting or something like that. Well, anyway, there are somewhere so far around 15 to 20 people who've expressed interest. So I think I've hit something
20,
here.
wow.
15 to 20, yeah. So now I've got to follow up with all of them, and I am going to follow up with all of them. In fact, I'm thinking, give you an idea of what I'm thinking about here. Well, first of all, actually, even before I do that, I'm going to do the promos because we always try to do the promos now toward the beginning of the show. So first promo, if you're not yet a subscriber, we want you to become a subscriber. All the instructions on how to do it are on the homepage of the website, loatoday.net. Or if you just know how to, go to search for a podcast, just search on LOA Today through either the podcast or iTunes store on an Apple phone or through your favorite podcast software on your Android phone. We're recommending Google Podcasts. But whatever podcast software you use, just do a search through that, and you'll be able to find LOA Today. But the instructions are on the homepage, and if you're a little bit technically challenged, that's the way to do it. And then for all of our subscribers, both new subscribers and existing subscribers, and even long-time people who've been loyal to us for a few years now, we're asking all of you continue to put out there that you are listening to loatoday.net on social media whenever you listen to us. Just post something like, I'm listening to loatoday.net now. Something along that line, because that's the reason why we've been getting the increase in numbers, because our listeners are sharing. So please be sure to subscribe and share, and we thank you for your support, as that old commercial used to say. So with that thought in mind, I was thinking about, the reason I was thinking about comedians is I figured if we can get somebody on the show to be part of the conversation who doesn't necessarily know a lot about the law of attraction, well, first of all, that makes for interesting conversation because we have all these people who are life coaches and so forth who know all about the law of attraction. So, that creates good conversation. Right. But also, if they have a sense of humor, and especially if it's a light, positive kind of sense of humor, well, that could even make it more interesting because everybody likes to be entertained, right? So I was doing research on the people who had already responded, and I was finding more people on my own and so forth, digging and digging. An interesting thing interesting thing, Anne-Marie. When I was looking at individual comedians' pages, just average comedians who, they would do their local comedy club type store or whatever, just doing whatever gigs they could get. And I was looking at their followers. They had followers, all of them. Well, with a few exceptions, they had followers in the tens, hundreds of thousands, millions. I'm thinking, dang.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And what that told me is people love hearing funny people. They just love it.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. Sure.
So
that makes sense. I just never, I guess I'm so busy. I don't think about following somebody on Facebook who's a comedian.
Yeah.
But I love listening to comedians, and sometimes on television when I'm just resting at night, we'll watch, stand-up comedy on television.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
And think about it. Think about all of the television talk shows, like here in the United States. How many of them are hosted by comedians? Like all of them. Can you think of one that isn't hosted by a comedian? It's hard to come up with one. You probably can, but the vast majority are hosted by comedians. Why? Because comedians are funny.
Yeah, and they know how to think on their feet and come up with something really witty, especially in the
they know how to improv. Yeah, they can just respond to the moment.
Improv is huge.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So that's why I'm going to really pursue this thing. I'm not going to just maybe find one or two, because I do have a couple of slots. Wendy Dillard has decided she wants to go on and do other things, so that leaves the Tuesday and Thursday afternoon slots open, and that's kind of what got my thought process going. But now I'm really pushing. Like, not only am I going to try to find somebody to fill each of those two slots, maybe a different individual for each one. But I'm thinking, what can I do to bring as many of the good comedians on? And by good ones, I mean those who, once I've gotten a chance to talk to them and they've talked to me and they get an idea of what we're doing, comedians who like the idea of what we're doing, who think it could be fun and enjoyable for them to do, and who have the ability to do what I would call positive entertainment, positive comedy. I mean, there's a lot of, trashy comedy and, toilet comedy and, tearing people down comedy and all that kind of thing. And we don't really want that. But I would think most comedians, if they put their mind to it, they can also do the lighthearted stuff if they want to. And we'll find out. So as many of them as I can find who are willing to do that and who, seem to do it fairly well, I want to bring them on and create time slots if I have to, or maybe we'll bring one on for you and me on Sunday, so we'll have three of us doing a show. I mean, I don't know, something like that. But whatever it's going to take, I'm going to get as many on as we can. Wouldn't that be fun to have a third person in?
I think that would be fun.
Yeah,
I do think it would be fun. Although it's interesting because when you think about comedians and what people tend to laugh at, a lot of times I find what people laugh at is. Sometimes it's not the things that you really want to be laughing at. It's making fun of other people, or it's even a lot of times we're making fun of ourselves, which is okay. To a certain degree, it's okay to laugh at ourselves. I think that's healthy, actually, to laugh at yourself. When you're doing something ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's really. I don't like when comedians make fun of other people who aren't there, or I don't know. Sometimes comedians can be really negative. So I think you're going to have your work cut out for you to find the right kind of person who is going to bring the right kind of humor to the table. But I definitely think you can, and I definitely think they're out there. And I think that because we're using the law of attraction deliberately, I think you're going to attract just the people, and it's going to be great.
And I'm already seeing signs of that, by the way, because one of the people who have already responded wrote that he has been dealing himself with issues of depression and difficult things going on in his life and so forth, and he learned about the law of attraction and about meditation, and they've been helping him tremendously to overcome his own depression. So I'm thinking, well, shoot, that's like bullseye right there,
That is. Hey, guess who just walked into the room? It's my better half over here.
Hey, Walt, how are you?
Hey there, Mike. How you doing? Mike McEwen joining us here on the podcast. After last week, you weren't scared away. That's a good thing.
Well, I can't help but overhear the conversation, about your plan here to add some fun to it. I think I have a great skit. We could record myself doing my mirror work. I'd like to report that I have a solid week behind me now of mirror work, and what an easy concept that is.
I have to admit, I never thought of broadcasting mirror work, but that's an interesting idea.
I'd like to report that I'm not sure if I love myself anymore, but I've groomed myself up a bit. My nose hairs are a little bit shorter.
Well, we're so glad to hear that.
Me too.
This nose hair report is being brought to you by.
Oh, it's challenging, isn't it, Mike? It's challenging.
Well, it's something that really will help those who are willing to do it. So I recommend it. I'm anxious to see how this week is going to unfold with the mirror work. It's a day by day, minute by minute, second by second thing. It's a little weird, but
isn't it? That's what I found. The first few days, the first few days of mirror work. Did you have trouble the first day? My first day, I had to talk myself into doing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm still trying to get rid of that other Mike in the mirror who's that little voice in there saying, You don't love yourself. Why are you lying to yourself?
Well, don't worry. He goes away. Give him about 3 weeks. He'll be gone. He'll definitely go away.
He'll go away after a while. Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily go away immediately. Sometimes they give up with they don't give up without a fight. Let's put it that way. No, he'll go away. He'll definitely go away. In fact, you'll be amazed because when he does go away, when that little negative self-talk voice goes away, and you're left with silence in your head, it's like, oh wow, this is nice.
I'm not going to miss him, am I?
No, you won't miss him at all. You'll just be amazed, like, oh, how quiet my mind is. You'll love it for your Reiki too, because I know you need that when you do Reiki or Tai Chi or any of that stuff. You want to quiet your mind in order to do that effectively. You're going to love the effect that it has when you do those kinds of activities. It's really that powerful.
Yeah. It's amazing when I'm in that, mindset of Tai Chi, Qigong, or Reiki, I can shut all that stuff off. It's just the day-to-day life and, looking for my stuff. That's where the talk comes in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When it comes to actually doing those various modalities, the Reiki, the Tai Chi, the Qigong, and so forth, you're going to find you don't have to make yourself do it. It's just going to be gone anyway.
Right.
So there will be no effort at all. You won't even have to think about it. You'll just start doing your stuff. It'll be true ease, which is what it's all supposed to be about anyway, right? Living life with ease.
Well, I know that would be a funny skit for me to, for people to listen or watch me do my mirror work. People would definitely laugh over that one. I get myself laughing sometimes.
Well, we have to remember it is a podcast, so people can't see us. But nevertheless, we can do it like a radio show, right? Like the old-time radio shows from like the 1940s. We can do it like that.
But I appreciate the opportunity last Sunday and the advice. And I said, you know what? I committed to it. I have to do it. So I'm proud to say that I have a week under my belt.
All right, 7 days.
Reporting back into you again next week.
I will not be surprised if you tell us, maybe not next week, but certainly within 2 weeks, that the voice has faded. That negative self-talk voice has faded, because that's what I experienced. It took me about 21 days to get to that point. And you're one-third of the way there.
Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
I'm so looking forward to that.
I think it might take a little bit longer for Mike's voice to leave his head. His voice is really loud, Walt.
Oh, Anne-Marie.
His voice is really loud.
My voice was not only loud, but there were multiples.
Okay.
Voices would come at me from different directions. I felt like I was being ambushed. So, yeah. No, the mirror work, the mirror exercises, basically, for those who don't know what mirror exercises are, you can find a nice description at Jack Canfield's website, jackcanfield.com. But essentially all you're doing is you're looking in the mirror, usually in the morning, for as long as you can. My first session lasted 10 seconds, but after a while I got up to 3, 4, 5 minutes. And what you're doing during that time is appreciating yourself. The hardest part is when you actually get to say to yourself, I love you, while you're looking in your own eyes. The first time you say that, it just doesn't feel good at all. It feels so strange. But if you can keep doing that and keep doing other things too, you keep talking about all the things that are going well that you're really proud of yourself for doing. And you just keep giving yourself different kinds of pats on the back. And the overall goal is to get to the point where with each session where you really do feel like you have expressed appreciation to yourself and felt it deep down. And if you can do that every single day for a minute, 2, 3, 4 minutes a day, whatever, early in the morning especially is good because that way you set your day up nicely at the same time. But if you do that for 30 days, after 30 days, all that negative self-talk, all that chatter that goes on in your head disappears. And to be honest, mine eventually came back a little bit. I still get it every once in a while. But that's because I stopped doing the exercises. So that's like a reminder to me. Whenever that happens, go back to the mirror. Go back to doing the morning exercises. And I will. Right. I don't even do it necessarily every day, but it's even just doing it once or twice after that is enough to shut them up again.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's it's a practice like anything else. It's a practice, and even like laughter yoga. It's all a practice, and you got to keep doing it. And I think the more you do it, the better you get at it. And like you said, you just have to go back a little tiny bit to get it back in the flow.
Absolutely. So getting back to the main topic today. Well, thank you. Yes. Getting back to the main topic, which is, you mentioned this to me before the podcast, that you really liked the conversation Cindie Chavez and I had on Tuesday, which was actually on Wednesday, I guess was the last time we talked about it, which was a kind of the last of an ongoing set of conversations we had about Neville Goddard's book, Awakened Imagination. And the overall concept that Cindie likes the most about Neville Goddard is encapsulated in the title of this podcast, which is Assuming the Feeling of the Wish Fulfilled, which of course means that anything that we're trying to attract into our lives, the first thing we want to be focused on, or the primary thing we want to be focused on, is assuming the feeling of having that thing as if it had already happened and believing it and living it and just getting excited about it and so forth. And to the point where it is indistinguishable from an actual experience of having it. Because if you can do that, the thing must come into your life, whatever the thing is. And the story that Neville told about his first experience was how he was living in New York City in the early 1930s. He was originally from Barbados, the Caribbean island, and he wished he could go home for Christmas, but he didn't have the money to buy a steamship ticket. And he decided, at the recommendation of a friend of his, an Indian friend of his, who recommended that he follow this basic process that we just described, that if he did that, he would be able to find a way to get back home. And so he started doing this practice, and I'm not sure what the time frame was that he did it all. It may have been a matter of days or weeks, I'm not sure. But after some period of time, all of a sudden, out of the blue, he received a telegram from his family in Barbados saying, we are going to wire the money to you so you can come home for Christmas because we really miss you. So we're going to send you the money for a steamship ticket, which blew his mind because he had not been in contact with his family. His family didn't even know he was doing this process. But nevertheless, the process had led to him being able to go home for Christmas, which was exactly what he wanted.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's just, it's crazy. Yeah. So you and Cindie had talked about, one of the things that Cindie had read was that you not only kind of have to envision yourself there, but act as though everything that you're doing is coming from that place.
Right.
And that was really difficult. I mean, I could understand what that meant theoretically, but putting it into practice, that's a little bit trickier for me to put into practice.
Not just for you. That's for everybody. That's the tough part right there. That's the assuming the feeling part. Assuming the feeling means living it in your mind. Totally living it in your mind, and where you can in your actions, where it's possible to do that.
Yeah.
So that it really does become a vital experience. I mean, for Neville, I'm sure that what he did is he described some of it in his book, but he imagined himself in his bed in his room in Barbados at the family homestead. He imagined himself, being on the island, being on the beaches among the natives, He imagined himself having conversations with his family members, with his friends that he had grown up with. He just imagined the whole thing. He imagined, the feel of the ocean breeze coming off of the Caribbean side. He imagined everything that he could remember about Barbados. And you may remember that excuse me, 2 or 3 episodes ago, I'd say it was either like the Tuesday morning episode or it was one of the episodes from the previous week when Cindie and I were talking about this. I related how Louise and I had gone to Barbados for our honeymoon. We actually did a double honeymoon. Our first honeymoon, we went to Cape Cod, and then much later, like 8 months later, we went to Barbados. And so I know what Barbados is like. I mean, I don't know what his homestead was like. Obviously, I didn't know where he lived in Barbados, but it's a small enough island.
Right.
And we got to know it really well. And I could envision that. I could envision what it would be like to get a steamship ticket or today an airplane ticket to Barbados. Because I can remember what it was like. It was a beautiful island, absolutely a gorgeous place. Just true Caribbean experience in every way. Well, that's what you got to do. You have to have that level of detail. And one of the things that Cindie and I talked about that I think really makes the big difference is one of the things you can take advantage of when you're trying to envision everything, to basically live it, to live the experience of the wish fulfilled, is to do it with passion, to do it with a high level of emotional attachment. And the higher that you can build that passionate level, the better off you are. But as you point out, that's the hard part. Not only creating all the detail of it, but getting really, really excited about it. That's the skill. That is the ultimate art of deliberate creation, as Abraham would term it.
Right.
So you're not alone when you say that it's difficult to do. On the other hand, we can all learn it. I mean, I would have said 10 years ago, 10 years ago? Actually, 12 years ago. I would have said 12 years ago it was impossible for me to choose what feeling I'm going to have at any given time. I mean, I really believe that. And it was only not only after I heard The Secret, but also a few years later after I heard from Abraham for the first time. And Abraham suggested that we get to pick our feelings. That's not the way they said it, but that was the gist of it. My first reaction was, no, you can't. I really didn't think you could. But I started trying to find out how to do it. I would talk to Louise about it because I really didn't know where to begin. I mean, when you have years and years of believing that every feeling you have is dictated to you by your experience, trying to learn it in reverse order seems impossible. I mean, literally, it seems impossible. But I talked to her, and she gave me ideas. Like, she was the one who suggested that I do. I was already doing walks, so go out and appreciate the nature while you're doing the walk, and zero in on the leaves on the tree, or the flowers, or look at the color of the flowers, appreciate them, look inside, look at the the pistils inside, and so forth, and just breathe in the life of the flower, experience the energy of it, and so forth. And most of what she was describing seemed nutty to me, but I would try to do that. And as I did that kind of thing more and more, and it took me a long time to get there, I finally got to the point one day where I had an event happen that would have produced emotion X in me. And I decided I didn't want emotion X. I was going to somehow do this thing where I would choose my emotion, and I chose emotion Y instead. And I did it. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I managed to get myself to feel something other than what the experience was supposed to feel like.
Right.
But once I felt that, I realized my whole set of assumptions up until that point as an adult were wrong.
Right.
And that was a revelation. So heck, if I can choose my emotion at any given time, what's keeping me from deciding how I'm going to react to a thought and getting myself passionately built up about a thought? Well, nothing except my own unwillingness to do it, really. That's what it comes down to. So can we learn it? We can all learn it.
Yeah. Absolutely. We can definitely all learn it, and you have to make it a priority. I find that you definitely have to make it a priority, and you have to believe it. I think that's part of it, is that people don't want to believe it, and you have to believe it. You have to believe that this is one of the laws of the universe, even more so than gravity is. It's a law of the universe that's in play. It's just that it's so hard to recognize sometimes that we're the cause of all of this. We don't want to admit it, or we don't know how it happened. Sometimes things happen and you're like, how did that happen? And so it's tricky sometimes to find that. But But I'm glad that you finally learned, that you can change your emotions. And I've definitely experienced that a lot of times in my life when I've wanted something. I wanted a new car, or I wanted a kayak, or I wanted whatever. It was a lot easier for me to feel like I had those things, or feel like something was positive about my family or something like that. I think the biggest one that I have trouble with is feeling abundant and financially abundant. And I have to remember, and a lot of times I will be good at remembering that I'm abundant in other ways. And so I feel abundant in that regard. But feeling abundant with money sometimes is probably my biggest challenge, because it's hard for me to act as though I'm coming from that place.
Yeah. And there are lots of ways to practice it. There are lots of ways to do it. But you're right. That is a big challenge. It's a challenge I think most people have faced at one time or another. And the simple fact is that the ones that seem the biggest to us really are just big to us because we say that they're big. I mean, it's not like they really are big. As Abraham points out, it's just as easy to manifest a castle as it is a button. But that's not the way we look at it. We think of it as the castle, is really, really hard to manifest, and the button's easy to manifest. Well, only because we think it is. That's the thing. It's only because we think it is. Yeah. I mean, you have this great story. When we wrote the book that was published this past May called Your Daily Dose of Happy, Real Success Stories of the Law of Attraction, you had one of the stories in the book. And the story was of how you manifested a Steinway piano for the buttonwood. I shake my head at that one. But let's use that one as an example, okay? Because basically, I mean, the Buttonwood Tree is it's a nonprofit cultural arts center. The reason, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons I'm sure you feel like you struggle with abundance of money is because you're dealing in an environment of a nonprofit organization that never has enough money. And that's often the nature of nonprofit organizations, particularly small ones that are doing things like cultural arts. That's just, it's not the kind of thing there's normally like this huge pile of money for. So it's no wonder that you have a mindset that makes it difficult to manifest stuff. And yet, despite that fact, you managed to manifest a Steinway piano, which you needed for your performers, particularly your classically trained pianists, to come in so they could do their performances on an instrument that actually did them some justice.
Right.
Now, when you were trying to manifest that, first of all, when you first put out there you wanted that piano, you didn't really have any idea how you were going to get it, did you?
Well, I did. I kind of figured that the only way we were going to get a Steinway is if somebody donated it to us.
Oh, okay. So you had some idea.
I just left it at that. Somebody donate. I just figured somebody would donate us a piano. Certainly not. I didn't think somebody was going to give us the money and say, okay, go get a piano. Mm-hmm. I figured somebody was going to donate a piano to us.
Okay, so you had it framed that much, which is good. So you had some idea of how you wanted it to happen. You didn't get into how it was going to happen, but you had some idea of the idea that it would be a donation. You went that far with it.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember when you started putting it out there? Do you remember how it felt to put it out there?
Yeah.
How did it feel?
I do. When I first started talking about it, I felt, how do I verbalize this? I felt, this is going to sound a little weird, and I don't usually use this word, but I felt somehow proud that we could have such a fine piano for our performers.
Really?
Because at the time we didn't have a good piano, and I felt very inferior. I felt very much like we were not doing them justice, and we were just not suitable enough. We were not just up to par with where they wanted to be for performance sake, for an instrument's sake. And so,
which is not a good feeling, is it? I mean, thinking about that, when there aren't any good instruments for them to play, that must feel pretty bad.
Yeah, I felt bad about that. I felt, it's like offering somebody a cup of coffee and then saying, "Oh, sorry, all I have is instant, and I don't have any sugar, and I don't have any cream. Sorry, but here's a cup of coffee."
Yeah.
You know. Now I'm being able to say, here, here's the best cup of coffee in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me feel really good to be able to offer that to them. And so I allowed myself to feel that goodness, that sense of relief. I felt relief, when I thought about it happening, I would feel relief that, yay, we finally got a piano that was good,
Mm-hmm.
and so, some of the other feelings that I had, I'm trying to think about them because I definitely remember talking to the audiences. I would talk to the audience and I would say, I really want to get a Steinway piano for these performers because they're so talented and they're world-class performers and we really need to get that. And one of these days we're going to get a piano. And I felt just confident in saying that. I felt like it was definitely going to happen one day. And yet, believe it or not, there was still this tiny part of me that was uncertain.
Sure.
That little bit of doubt was still there saying, yeah, well, you don't have it yet. But I think certainly that my confidence and my faith outweighed everything else.
I would say so too. And I'd say that's really noteworthy. The reason I say that's noteworthy is you could very easily have stayed in the emotional space that says, we're never going to get a Steinway. Those are expensive pianos. Nobody's going to donate a Steinway. You just don't donate Steinway. You could have stayed in that space. And you could have felt
Mm-hmm.
very defeated by it. You could have continued to feel the dismay and the inferiority complex of asking world-class artists to play on an inferior piano that was the best piano that you had. You could have stayed in that place, but you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't.
Right.
For whatever reason, by whatever mental process you went through, you pretty quickly switched right over to deciding to feel proud about a piano you did not yet even have. That is assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had faith that it would happen in whenever it was supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, to me, that was the best part about when it showed up.
Mm.
Oh, I wanted to talk to you about this.
What?
I was listening to one of your shows and you said you were talking about timing. It might have even been with Mike. I don't remember, but I don't think it was. I think you were talking to one of, it was either Cindie or Wendy. I forget who it was, but
okay.
You mentioned something about how if somebody was in perfect alignment, our manifestations should happen immediately. And I thought to myself, well, sometimes we're in alignment and we're in perfect alignment with that which we wanted. However, the universe sometimes takes time for things to work out perfectly, for all of the components to line up exactly right. I think it takes a little bit of time for the universe to line up. And I say that because in this particular case with the piano, the day the piano showed up, or maybe the week that the piano showed up, was the exact week when we were laying a new floor.
Right.
So the timing of that could not have been better. If it had happened not when we were doing the floor, well, we would have it would have cost us twice the amount in rental, in moving fees. And who knows what would have happened with the old piano. The mover wouldn't have kept it in storage the way he did for us in this particular case. So it would have cost us a lot more money if we had to do it at a different time. So I feel like sometimes we can be perfectly aligned with something, and we just have to have patience for the universe to line it up properly for us. And then if we're still in alignment, then it will happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true.
Does that make sense?
I think that's true. I think another way to look at the same idea, but I think your way of expressing it is perfectly valid. But another way to look at the same idea is we actually don't really have pure requests because we don't live in a vacuum. We live in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going on all the time. We have rockets of desire, as Abraham terms them, firing left, right, center, all over the place. I mean, just constantly. We're firing them all in the same direction. We're firing them toward the vortex. But nevertheless, in terms of the way we experience it, we're firing off rockets all the time, and each of them they aren't unique and independent. That they don't interact with each other. So, for instance, if you have a desire for a Steinway piano, but you also have a desire to have it come to you as inexpensively as possible, that's two desires that need to work together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that a pure desire for a piano? Well, one sense it is. In another sense it isn't. It depends on how you look at it, right? So if you look at it in terms of them working together, then it happened as quickly as it could have for two of them working together.
Right. And I think sometimes when you put a lot of, and I totally don't know if this is right or not, but I think that sometimes when you put a lot of criteria on something, like let's say you want a car, you just say, oh, I want a minivan. Let's say, for example, I just want a minivan that has these features, and you think about maybe 5 different features. I think it's maybe possible or easier to manifest that than manifesting something with 100 different characteristics to it. And probably a van is not a good idea not a good example, but let's say, maybe a person who has the kind of qualities that you're looking for, and you have like a list of 100 qualities, and maybe it takes longer for that person to show up. I don't know. And then,
each one of those is a limiting belief. I mean, that's the thing. That's the way I like to look at it and understand it. Every single one of those requirements is a limiting belief. Now, we often have this thought in our minds that a limiting belief is bad. Limiting beliefs aren't necessarily bad. I mean, actually, the phrase limiting belief is a little bit redundant, because a belief by its nature is a limit. It's saying, I want this. I don't want all possibilities in the universe. I want this possibility. So that is placing a limit. It's not a bad limit. It's actually a good limit, but it's still a limit. And the more stuff we pile on, so if we have 100 different requirements, well, that's a lot of little limiting beliefs on there. Are those limiting beliefs going to stop you from manifesting it? Not necessarily. If they all work together nicely, they could actually work together to produce something really cool. But nevertheless, there still are limits going on there. And as long as there are limits, that's going to slow stuff down a bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's possible that it does that. I don't know for sure, but I think that it's possible. I mean, when you listen to Abraham seems to say that it doesn't matter. I don't know. When you listen to Abraham, do you get that? Or what do you think when you listen to Abraham? What do you think that they say about it?
I think Abraham, like so many teachers, wants to present concepts and ideas like this in the simplest form that they can, so that they can get the widest number of people comprehending and using them. So I think they simplify a lot of stuff. I think you also, I find I need to listen very carefully to how they word things. Like, for instance, I don't know exactly how they worded what you just described, because I'd have to go back and listen to it or read it. But I would not be surprised if, for instance, they said that the amount of time that it takes to manifest a single thing without putting any qualifications on it is only limited by your belief. And that's probably true. But that's with no qualifications. The moment that you start saying it needs to have 100 different characteristics, you just add 100 qualifications. But I don't think they break it down that carefully. I think what they want people to do is to understand, if you want a thing, the only thing that is limiting a thing is you. And so the more you can do to remove your own resistances, the quicker that thing is going to come. That makes it as simple a concept as you can make it. I think that's why they do it that way.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think you're right there. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And it's true that our beliefs are what hold us back all the time. It's our beliefs. And maybe I'm having too many beliefs that I shouldn't be
It's our beliefs that move us forward too. Our beliefs are what we use to attract what we want into our lives. So our beliefs play a very positive role too. I think it does us well to remember beliefs can work either way. It depends whether or not they're beliefs that we feel will serve us, or beliefs that we feel will work against us, that don't feel good to ourselves. And that's really where the feeling component really becomes valuable, because whenever we ask for something, whatever the something is, or maybe for someone or for an experience or something like that, whenever we're asking for that, if we really like it, if we like the idea of that thing coming into our lives, then that is a good kind of thing to believe in. Because we're asking for something we like, that we want. We're asking for something that we would enjoy, that would make us feel abundant, to use the word you used earlier. So it makes, from that perspective, a belief is a very good thing. On the other hand, if we adopt a belief that prevents us from bringing into our lives the things that we want, that's a counterproductive belief. Is there anything wrong with either one of the beliefs? No, it's just that one just works against what we're trying to do, and the other one doesn't. That's all. It's not like one's a bad one or a good one. One's a right one or a wrong one. It's just one's working in our favor and one's working against us. It's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
So let's go back to what you said earlier. And I think you raised a great question, a great concern, and that is how do you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled about something that's really, really important to you that you have found to be difficult? And you're right. Many of us have found the abundance of money to be difficult. So how do we turn that around? Because clearly we need to be able to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled in Goddard's language, right? So how do we do it? How do we start feeling like if we've never had $1 million, well, how do we feel like we have $1 million? And I've actually had this conversation with many of the co-hosts where we all agree there's a fundamental problem there. What does $1 million feel like? It doesn't feel like anything. $1 million it's just a medium of exchange. It doesn't, the experience that you have with $1 million, that's where all the feeling is. But $1 million itself is just, pieces of paper. It's a ledger, a line on a ledger. It's all it is. It doesn't have a feeling associated with the money itself. It's just what can you do with the money? That's where the feelings are involved.
Right.
So what we really are wanting to do is we're wanting to learn how to feel the abundant lifestyle. And what does that lifestyle feel like? And that's where we get to apply our imaginations in a big way.
Right. And that's where I think I have a hard time with that because I want to build a school and I want to build a healing arts center with Mike, and we want to build these things that are I think that they're challenging for me to picture myself doing. And so I think that's where one of the things that kind of I stumble on.
Well, let's see if we can practice it a little bit. And what I'm going to recommend is that we draw upon some of the processes, the practices that are described in the back of the Abraham Hicks book, Ask and It Is Given. There are 22 of them back there. They're really useful practices. And each of these practices, of course, has a little gauge kind of at the bottom that tells you, okay, take a look at where you are on the emotional scale, and if you're in this range, then this process will work for you. So I'm going to start off by just asking you, roughly speaking, give me an idea of where are you on the emotional guidance scale right now? Are you like, very high in your joy? Are you down in your depression? Are you somewhere in the middle? Like if you had to pick an emotion to describe what your dominant emotional set point is right now, what would you say?
Right now, I'd say I'm at content.
At content. Okay, so like 7 or 8 on the scale, something like that.
Yeah, to me, I think content is the bottom of the positive, what I call the positive emotions, because right below content is boredom, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm definitely not bored. In fact, I'm rarely ever bored. In fact, I don't think I've been bored for like 40 years. I don't think I've been bored. I can drop below boredom, trust me. I can drop to disappointment or frustration or anger or whatever. But boredom, I don't think I've hit boredom in a long time.
Not in a long time, okay.
Yeah. Content, I'm definitely content. And a lot of times I'm happy. A lot of times I'm positively expectant. But right now, I just say I'm pretty content.
Well, I created a cheat sheet that listeners can actually find on the website at loatoday.net. If you just go to the site and do a little search in the search bar for cheat sheet, it'll pop right up with the little post. I took the 22 points on the scale, and I took the 22 processes and realized, my God, it's the same number. There are 22 points on the scale, and there are 22 processes. How interesting. And I made a little cheat sheet that told me, like, if I'm at contentment, which is actually number 7, I have my cheat sheet tells me that processes 5 through 8 and 10 through 15 are appropriate processes for that level. I went through and I compared all the different possibilities for each different point on the scale and pieced together this cheat sheet. So if we look at those processes that are in the range of 5 to 8 and 10 to 15, there are a number of really good ones in there. One of the ones that are in there that I'm going to recommend that we try is process number 12. And that one is the process known as Wouldn't It Be Nice If? And Wouldn't It Be Nice If is basically where you start a series of sentences each time with the phrase, wouldn't it be nice if, to describe what it is that you're trying to put into words. You know, that in this case, you're trying to put a feeling of abundance into words, and you're trying to put it into feelings. You're trying to make it alive in your imagination, and ultimately in your life. You're trying to attract it. So it's a way of doing what you're describing. Because you said you're having trouble doing that. You're having trouble, piecing this dream together in a coherent way, right?
Right. Well, right. I'm having trouble feeling abundant financially. I can feel abundant in other things, but financially, it's hard for me to feel abundant a lot of times, especially when I'm just, out grocery shopping and I know I can't spend as much as I want to because I don't have all that money in my account or something like that, So those are the tricky times.
So let's go back and forth with some wouldn't it be nice if sentences about that, okay? So for instance, wouldn't it be nice if every time you went shopping, you had all the money that you could possibly need to do the shopping you wanted to do, and you didn't have to ever think about money again? Wouldn't it be nice if you did that?
Yeah, okay. And so
give me a wouldn't be nice if.
Wouldn't it be nice if I didn't care how much gas cost and I didn't have to try to figure out when I'm going to go to that station or how do I get to that station that has the cheaper price? I could just go to any gas station I want to whenever I want to.
Wouldn't that be nice? That would be really nice.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, I like this.
Can you think of another wouldn't it be nice if?
All right. Wouldn't it be nice if I could afford to buy my kids all the things that they absolutely need? I don't want to enable them, but I would love to be able to. Wouldn't it be nice if I could buy my kids whatever they need so that they have the basic essentials and I feel good like I'm contributing and supporting them the way a mother should support them?
Wouldn't it be nice if every time that you needed to pay for something, you didn't think twice about it because it was no longer a concern? I mean, wouldn't it be nice if you never ever thought about, geez, can I afford this? Would it be nice if you just, could spend the money and feel good and like confident that, the universe is abundant, the money's going to keep coming in? Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to know that there was enough money coming in next week that I didn't have to worry about what I'm spending now?
Yeah. Yeah. Would it be nice to know that the mortgage was paid, that the bills were all paid, and that they were going to continue to be all paid, and you didn't have to do anything about it because you knew they were going to be paid?
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, that's a good one. I like this game. I had forgotten all about this game.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
This is a good game.
You said these are in the back of Asking It Is Given book?
Right, by Jerry and Esther Hicks. Yep. Yeah, this is number 15, I think it is.
I gave that to somebody. I'm going to have to go check it out again.
You have to get it back. Yeah, get your copy back.
Yes.
Hey, I need that. Remember that book I loaned you? Well, I need it back.
Yes. Wouldn't it be nice if I could get that book back?
If you get the book back, right? Well, actually, I have a solution for that. I keep 2 copies. I mean, I have one here and there's one out in the living room, so I always have a copy around.
Very good, very good. I'm going to come to your house. Wouldn't it be nice if Walt loaned me his book until I get mine back?
Well, we're only about 21 miles up the road from you, so why not? Sure.
Yeah, when are we going out to dinner again, Walt?
Well, we got to do that.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had money to go out to dinner?
Yeah, that would be good. That'd be good stuff. And notice what we're doing here with this wouldn't be nice if. We've done all these and we've come up with a whole bunch of them. We started to frame what it feels like to have the abundance of money.
That's right.
We're laughing about it. We're feeling good about it. It doesn't matter that it is not the current real reality that we have. What matters is that we're creating the reality in our conversation. And in the process of doing that, we are piecing together from various pieces of experience that we have and from just our pure imagination, we're piecing together what it would be like to be in that abundant lifestyle that you so desperately want? Well, we can do it. So clearly you can do this thing. It's just a question. We got to do it. We got to do this thing. We got to do it regularly. And that's the other part. Goddard really made a point of this. Abraham makes a point of this. All the major law of attraction teachers make a point of this. You have to feel it. You have to believe it. You have to make it passionate, and you have to keep doing it. You have to stop what I call keeping score. Stop looking for it. You just have to keep doing it over and over until it becomes a regular pattern of your life. I mean, I was just reading a book out of the library, Joe Dispenza's book, You Are the Placebo. And I got word today.
I want to read that. I love him.
I got word that somebody else has a hold on the book, so I couldn't renew it. So I'm going to have to take it back to the library and maybe get a copy of my own or just order it from the library again. I'm not sure which. But one of the interesting things from that book is he talks about something we've all heard before, which is we have something like 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day. We've all heard that, right? Well, he goes a little bit further. He points out that not only do we have all those thoughts, but most of them are patterned the same way every single day. So when we wake up in the morning, the next thing we usually have a pattern. Like the next thing we do is go to the bathroom. And the next thing we do after that is feed the cat. And the next thing we do after that is eat breakfast. And we have a whole series, and the thoughts are all there, but we just keep living them all over and over again. I was noticing it today when Louise and I were driving back from Vermont. She had her iPad out, and she was listening to YouTube replays of The Little Couple, the television show, which she listens to all the time. But she was listening to them again, and I realized she was repeating another thought pattern that she repeats almost every day. You know, so we are actually, even though we have all these thoughts every day, we are still creatures of habit. What we're really trying to do here, and the reason we struggle with it, is because we're trying to change our patterns of habit, our patterns of thought. Right. Those patterns of thought are what we're trying to turn around, and that creates discomfort because we're so comfortable with the patterns we already have. So that's why it's so important to repeat the exercise over and over again. We're trying to entrain the new feeling into our thought patterns. And when we do that, that's when the universe starts really, building up the momentum, the positive momentum that ultimately delivers whatever it is we're looking for to happen in our lives.
Right. Yeah, good point. Well said.
As Cindie Chavez often likes to say, energy entrains unto itself. That's how energy entrains unto itself through the thought process.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I just have to keep thinking it and keep feeling it with passion and doing, I think that's a great exercise. I'm going to definitely do that exercise. Mike can do his mirror exercises. I'm going to do the what if exercises.
And plus, these exercises are so much easier and so much fun when we do it with somebody else. Notice how easy it was when you and I were doing it together. It's so much easier than doing it by yourself. So I would encourage you and Mike to do it together. Wouldn't it be nice if together? Yeah. I've been trying to get Louise to do that, and we occasionally get it in, but not as often as I'd like.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if our spouses would do this game with us?
Ooh, I like that one. That's very good. Yeah.
Mike said he'll do it as long as I do the mirror work with him.
Well, that's a fair trade. Why not? I think that's a good idea. I've never tried to do mirror work with somebody else, but I like the idea of doing that. It's a good idea.
I think that's hard. I think that would be really hard to do it with somebody else. I think the mirror work though is so personal. You have to, you're looking at yourself in the mirror into your pupils. Mm-hmm. I think it's really important to do a one-on-one thing. But if he'll do the wouldn't it be nice exercises, I'll do the mirror work on my own.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's a fair trade.
So, yeah, I think he's winning on that deal because, hey, I'll let him win.
Oh, okay.
I'll let him win.
You're so kind. I appreciate that. I'm sure he appreciates that, too. Hey, listen, we're running out of time, but this has been good. I'm glad you brought up the idea of having us discuss this, and I want you to keep, tuning into the other episodes so you can keep drawing good topics because this was a good one. Okay?
Yeah, it was great. Well, thanks a lot for having me on, Walt. I really enjoy it, and I hope that our listeners are gaining some benefits from it, and we'd love to hear from you if you're out there. Stop by the Buttonwood Tree in Middletown or go on our Facebook page and loatoday.net. Share that with everybody and have a good week.
Sounds like a beautiful promo. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.